Today I've got Klarus's first entry into the pistol light category. This is the Klarus GL1. It's rated for 600 lumens, has micro USB charging on the bottom here, and has a movable mount on the top to accommodate all different sizes of firearms. Thanks to Klarus for sending this to me to check out and review. Now let's get shooting and see how the GL1 does. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram or join the Facebook page if you're not already. And while you're here on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up and click that bell icon so you don't miss the next video. Here is the packaging that the GL1 comes in. It's a simple hanging cardboard box for retail. On the side, you've got a few statistics. On the back, you've got more specs and highlights of the product. You don't get a lot of accessories with the GL1. I've got a manual that I didn't bring with me here for my video. You've got a micro USB to USB cable. You've got a little Allen key with a Phillips head on one side to attach this different rail design if you need that for your firearm, and a couple extra small screws. And then you've got the light itself. The GL1 here is made from aluminum and is IPX6 water rated. It's a one-piece design and fairly slim up front, while getting a little bit wider here as it tapers and flares, as you can see kind of in the light. It has a pretty flat front bezel, and the lens is pretty deep, as you can see. On the right side when mounted, right here, you've got a little LED that gives you a power indicator. You can see it's green when it's on, and when you're charging on the bottom, it turns red when charging and then green when charged. On the bottom, you do have that micro USB charging port. It's covered by silicone. It is flat, and it's got a little tab to open. No complaints there. It's pretty stout, more stout than what you normally see on a lot of flashlights. And really, there's minimal markings on here too. You've got the model number, a serial number, you've got the Klarus logo on that side, and that's it. On the back here, you've got your two plastic switches. Those are a little bit difficult to see, but they work like most other pistol lights. The one thing to note here is that there is a little bit of rubber down here, so when you push them, that does compress and gives you a little bit of feedback. But the ramp angle here is a lot stiffer than what you see on like the Olight, and I'm not a huge fan of that, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute. So mounting here, the GL1 uses a more conventional mount. You've got a screw here. It's not a quick release. You unscrew it, and then you can push on this side to get it to open up to go over the rail of your firearm. And then you've got this piece here, which is adjustable. This slides backwards and forwards, and it's a little bit hard to do. I kind of get my fingernail underneath there and pry. You could probably pry with a pry bar or maybe a screwdriver or something like that. The other thing I found that was nice to do is take your firearm, this is unloaded, and clip it on there like you saw I do, and then you can kind of just pull it backwards and have it fit your firearm as close to your handguard as you'd like. Once it's on, you can just screw this thumb screw down. You don't need any tools, but a coin or small screwdriver or spent casing to really tighten it up is a pretty good idea. And once it's on, it's solid, no problems there. So you can see here, I can reach. As far as holster options, I know of no one yet supporting the GL1 to buy something off the shelf. This means you will have to get something custom if you want this for your carry gun. I think it'd be super smart for light manufacturers to partner with holster manufacturer in advance when they come out with light, so customers have the option to buy a holster too, right off the bat. So the GL1's main competitor here, I think, is the Olight Mini 2 Valkyrie. I've reviewed this before. If you'd like to check that out, please do so. The main difference in the mounting system is that the Olight is a quick release here. It's also adjustable, which I like. It's a little bit easier adjustment system, and that quick release is always nice. Other than that though, they're very, very similar. But here's what I'm talking about with the buttons, and hopefully you can see. The Olight's is just a lot flatter button overall, and the GL1's is more steep. This looks sleeker against the firearm, but for me, ergonomically, it's just not quite as nice. This steeper angle presses more on my fingertip. As you can kind of see as I push down on here, it leaves a mark. Obviously that does go away. It's just not quite as comfortable. I could file that down and round that over, and I think it'd be a little bit nicer. Other than that, they're very, very similar. You can see the head design here, very similar diameter. The Olight's is slightly larger. Overall length, the Klarus is just a hair longer, and overall height, they're pretty much identical, and weight-wise, they're within just a few grams of each other, but the Klarus is slightly lighter. And here's a picture of what it looks like mounted up on my firearm. The GL1 is using a Cree XP-L2 HD LED in cool white, and it's powered by an internal 260 milliamp hour battery. This is the same as the Olight size battery. No exact tint data is given, but it's not super cool. The LED sits behind a smooth, fairly flat, deep reflector. Beam quality here is good for its intended purposes. If I put it out here, you can see it's fairly spotty, but the focal point is medium size. There's a good amount of tint shift on the emitter when you're pointing against a white surface or something like that, but I really don't notice it at other times. The Olight's throw is just slightly further according to the stats, but to my naked eye, I can't tell a difference. Here are my night shots for the Klarus GL1. This is using that Cree XP-L G2 LED, and this is 600 lumens. Top lumen mode. There is only one option here. I will turn it down to the strobe here. We can see the beam here is pretty good. It's focused, but at the same time here at the fence line, which is about 45 feet, and then the second fence there is near 100, it does a pretty good job of illuminating the area. Here's the Olight PL Mini 2, and we can see it's a very similar beam pattern. The beam here is a little bit more neutral white than the Klarus, but overall very, very similar beam pattern on the Klarus GL1 and the Olight PL2 Mini. You can see they reach out to roughly the same distance and have the same overall characteristics. This is the 600 lumens or there so of the GL1. I'm gonna let this run and pause the camera here because I want to show you what this is like in 12 minutes. Here is the same scene with the GL1, and this is after 12 minutes of runtime, and I haven't adjusted my camera settings or anything at all. I've just panned down because, well, it doesn't reach that neighbor's fence. It only reaches mine about 45 feet away, and it's fairly dim there. And if I point down at my deck, you can kind of see it's just not that bright after a short amount of time. If I switch off and switch on again, it comes back to that full 600 lumens for as long as it can support that. But you can see the battery and the output here is just ramping down. You can see that by eye. You can see the neighbor's fence again, but it's just not as bright. I can turn off and turn back on again. It kind of resets itself. The GL1 produces its maximum of 600 lumens for right at 1 minute, and then starts stepping down from near 100% relative output to 10% over the next 11 minutes. At 2 minutes and 10 seconds, we saw the maximum heat at 35°C, which is fine. Over the next 50 minutes or so, the light maintained that 10% relative output where the light's running at near moonlight outputs over the next 2 hours. Overall, there was a little bit disappointing here because it lost so much output so quickly. While most firefights won't last this long, I want more than 12 minutes of more than like 60 lumens, and the last 2 hours are almost near useless. It's possible I have a bad battery here, but Klarus confirmed that they thought this runtime looked normal. So the UI here couldn't be simpler. It's very, very straightforward. You quick press and the light turns on and locks on, and quick press to turn off. You can long press and the light is in momentary. If you press both sides together at the same time, you get strobe. The GL1 uses micro USB charging here on the bottom, and it's got that internal 240 milliamp hour battery sealed inside the light. It is non-replaceable, but that's to be expected on a light of this purpose and size. Recharging accomplished via micro USB, and while slightly less convenient than Olight's magnetic charging system here that we've looked at in the past, I think a lot of people will like this because you don't need a special cable. We've all got micro USB cables probably in our cars, at our desks, at our nightstands for charging other devices, and that just makes it really easy to top it off here. I measured recharging is taking just 56 minutes with the maximum speed I saw at just under 0.3 amps, so it's a very safe charging speed for this size of battery. I mentioned this again here, this little dot that you can see here is the recharging indicator and the power indicator. When the light is on, you can see it's green, when charging it's red, and when charged it is back to green. So for me, the pros are that micro USB recharging means no proprietary cables are needed here, and it's got strobe available if you want it. I think the mounting system is here good, but it's not quite as convenient as Olight's quick detach system. My cons are it's 1 minute of that 600 lumen output, and I wish that was a bit longer. There is no other modes for this light, it just steps down. There are no holster options available on the market that I could find, and the actuation buttons I think need a little bit of revised ergonomics for more comfort. My conclusion is that the GL1 is a good first attempt from Klarus on a pistol light. Physically, they did a good job, I think. There's really not much original design here, but it's enough to be different. The mounting system works pretty well for not being quick detach, but I do wish they'd rethink those ergonomics of the buttons. I think performance here needs a little bit of work. A more regulated driver with stepped modes is important. A shorter runtime, I think, overall is okay if it produces usable light. Because we have to remember here, you're in a firefight and you're unlikely to be using this pistol light for hours at a time. The fact that it goes for just at almost 3 hours is kind of irrelevant. It's much more likely you'll need it on for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. So I'd rather have a little bit more light. I'll give this light a pass here because I think it's better than other brands' first attempts at pistol lights. I like the idea of micro USB over proprietary cable. I think that's smart. The UI here is good and simple for its intended purpose. The lack of holster options will prevent me from putting this on a carry or duty gun, but it won't prevent me from putting it on a nightstand or desk gun or something like that. It'll be fun to watch and see where Klarus goes from here on their GL series of lights. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And let me know what you think of the Klarus GL1 in the comments below. And as always, I'll catch you on the next review.